Really, the benefit of getting on the same page early in the gap year is really, really helpful. Because having those expectations on the table, setting those boundaries and guidelines and agreements in place, having it all on the table allows you both to make decisions moving forward, to engage in different activities moving forward, to have different responsibilities moving forward without the conflict. Because really what we want at the end of this is we want everyone to come out of the gap year feeling happy, healthy, satisfied, and continuing to have a good relationship with the other. So that's where that family gap year contract comes into play. It's really helpful because it actually protects both sides, both the parents and the gappers. When I bring this up in conversation, the gappers are always concerned because they feel that this will be more rules set to confine them when they're hoping to grow and take some risks and get out there a little bit. So they're really not too thrilled when I talk about the idea of a contract because they think it's going to be imposed on them. But when it's done right, when it's done in collaboration, when it's done with the proper guidelines, it's more so a tool for gaining independence and freedom. Really, the clauses in the agreement should protect the interests of both parties. Let me give you an example that I often use in workshops. Let's talk about curfew. Let's say you and your young person or you and your parents decide that the curfew is going to be midnight. That is what you agree upon in your family contract. Great. Curfew is midnight. That means the young person needs to be home by midnight. Pretty understood. But it also means that mom and dad cannot start texting at 11 o'clock saying, "Where are you? When are you coming home?" We need to protect those boundaries. You said midnight. You can assume and hopefully know that your young person will be home by midnight. So we need to enforce that on both sides. We need to give the space for that young person to occupy what you have set as that boundary. So really, setting expectations is really healthy experience, and having everything written down on paper makes it official and binding. But truly, the real value comes from the conversation surrounding the creation of this family agreement or family contract. So how do we have that healthy conversation when it comes to setting up this agreement? I'm going to give you some guidelines or some tips on how to really make this work for you. The first tip I want to give you is allow people time to prepare. Download the template, let everyone take it away for a couple of days, and have them fill it out and think about what would be reasonable from their perspective. What we don't want is we don't want anyone taken by surprise or anyone put on the spot and asked for an answer that they haven't had the time to think about. Being able to look at all of those prompts, all of those questions, all of those things that need to get on the table gives everybody a time to think without stress so that they can come prepared for a very respectful conversation. The second tip is to find a neutral spot to have these conversations. So for some families, it's around the dining room table. For others, it might be on the couch in the living room. And for still others, maybe it is out at a restaurant one evening. Whatever works for your family, that's what you want. You want a space where everybody is going to feel safe to have this conversation. Now, this conversation can be long. There's a lot of things to talk about. There are some things that might be challenging. So don't be afraid to take a break. Whether you need to take a break for an hour or a day or a week, really you might not be able to get through it all in one setting, or you might get into a heated state when you are disagreeing that perhaps taking that break would make a lot of sense. So if you need to, take that break and come back when you are refreshed and ready to take on the second half or third of that respectful conversation.